Welcome to Made to Last. My name is Brian, my wife Stephanie. And just conversations about marriage and family and parenting and relationships. And today we want to talk about a little bit about communication. Communication is such a big part of a relationship, of marriage. No marriage works, no relationship works without strong communication. So, why do you think communication is so important?
Well, communication is important because we can't make this marriage work if we don't communicate. We
Sure,
can't pay bills, we can't vacation, we can't do anything. We can't manage the household, we can't do anything if we don't have any type of communication.
right.
Plus, it'd be really lonely.
It would be. It would be. So, like, how do you? I mean, how do we? How do you? How does a couple like communicate well? Like, what do you think are some best practices, habits you think that can help couples struggling with communication?
I think right now, I think that's always been a struggle for couples with is communication.
It is.
But I think our phones, Netflix, TV, and a lot of other things are kind of distracting.
Sure.
It used to be, I feel like in our early marriage, it might have been our kids and work. We didn't have phones back then. But now with phones and you add on everything else that can keep you from communicating, it can be really disastrous. So I think you have to put some ground rules, kind of like some ground rules in place. Because I could be laying next to you,
Sure.
or we could be watching the news together when you come home, or whatever. And it could be, oh man, I forgot to tell them about this
Right.
because we're on our phones.
Right. Right.
Or you could be, the biggest complaint I always hear from women is he doesn't talk.
Right.
He doesn't say anything to me. And it's not like I don't want to know what happened on his job, but I at least want to know, oh, what did you do today? But y'all do kind of get annoyed when we start saying, oh, what did you do today?
I mean, it's different, right? Like y'all women, y'all like a lot of details. Like, I mean,
I
you a detailed person. Like with me, I'm gonna give you the outline, just one, two, three, and we good. But you want to know like the details, and I think sometimes for men, it's sometimes hard for us to make that shift, right? And so some
mean,
of the things I've had to learn about communication is to be more open with you, tell you more details. And I get even after all these years, I still struggle with that. I mean,
mm-hmm.
trying to share my heart, trying to share, and then sometimes I don't share everything because sometimes I don't want to burden you, right? As a man, sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
want to feel like you are protecting your wife from certain things. So sometimes you do have to carry some things without sharing everything. And I know that doesn't always make sense, but it can be tough sometimes.
Well, I get that because I don't want to know.
Sure.
Because if I do know some of your burdens, then I might meet
Right.
people on the street. So I don't want to know all that. But I think as a as your wife and as your friend, I just want to know when you're if you are stressed out
Sure.
from work, that you
Sure.
say, babe, this is a hard season at work right now, and just it's just going through something, but that give me something, give me a little bit
You're
of
you're
that
right. You're right.
and stuff, but just giving me nothing and acting like everything's okay.
Yeah.
Because y'all, what he'll do
What?
is
What?
no, no,
No,
no,
no, no, no,
no,
no,
no, no.
no,
What
no,
he'll
no,
do
no,
is he'll
no,
act
no,
like
no.
everything's okay, or he'll be super, super quiet, super standoffish. You know how they do. And then like maybe a week later, you'll be like, oh, something will happen, and you'll be like, oh, that's what was
I
happening.
just.
Well, yeah.
Now I will be
That
honest.
explains the tension.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know if a lot of guys, myself included, process things well. Like I don't know. I don't know if we're. I don't know if I'm just slow processing it. I don't know if I'm in denial. I don't know if I want to admit how some things impact me. But you're right. There are moments where I'm in a mood, and then it's later that I say, this is really what was going on with me,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, I get it. I get how that can frustrate you or frustrate any woman when
Hmm.
their husband, when they feel disconnected because of how their husband hasn't communicated to them, right? And so
Hmm.
she is forced to try to read his mind, right? And that's no fun, right? So the more we share, the more transparent we are. And then I think sometimes the quicker we share, right? I think sometimes you want to know in the moment, like, tell me what's happening. And I think that helps a relationship, right? If you tell
Yeah.
me a week later, but you told everybody else a week ago, it
Or if
makes
I
me
find out
feel.
on the
If I
street.
find it on the street, then it just feels like, well, what are we doing? Like, how can we? Nobody told me. Nobody talked. So I get it,
Hmm.
right? I think open communication. I think transparent. I think honest. I think quick. right?
Hmm.
And then I think communication is not just the words, right? It's your body language, it's your posture, it's your tone, right? I remember when
Hmm.
we first got married, we had the tone issue, right? Because you would be at school all day with your
Oh
little
my
kids,
goodness.
your little fourth grader, and you come
That was
home,
20
and
years
then
ago.
you would talk to me like I was little Ronald in your class, and
Always Ronald.
I would say, hey
Always
man,
Ronald
listen,
McNair. He's
I
probably
would
like 30
say,
years old
I can't
now.
use his whole name. I would say, listen, I'm not Ronald, right? But all these things, right? I think it's important to say it, right? And even
Hmm.
correct it. So if I'm off, right, I got to be open to you saying, "Hey, how you
But
said that
let's
to
just be
me
honest.
or how you
Let's
said."
just be honest. When I like, I have little people now and I have women's ministry things going on or just other little details that I'll do. But if you're off and I ask
Oh,
you
now
about
listen.
your off,
That's right.
you get even more off and more offended that I've asked you, why are you off?
You mean like I'm off day? What do you mean I'm off?
Your mood,
Oh, so
your behavior.
if my mood or behavior is off, sometimes in the moment I am not the most open to the
You're
correction
not
in the
open at
moment.
all.
Wait a minute now, wait a minute.
You're even more like
I think
agitated.
because I'm still processing it. I think for guys, like I think sometimes y'all women, y'all are quick processors. Like, man, y'all are quick on your feet, quick and that kind
No,
of stuff.
not
It's not a yeah,
necessarily. I
but I
think
mean for me, like, I'm
we're more
talking
honest.
uh well, let's not do that. Let me just say, for me and for some guys, it takes us a while to kind of process stuff. So the
Okay,
reason I don't respond in the moment could be because I'm still trying to process this thing.
I'll give you that. But sometimes your processes could be like years,
Oh my
and
God.
then the stuff just like builds, and I'm
Oh
like,
my God.
that's true, babe.
Well, if that's the case, then you need to just write a letter or something. Write a letter
Write a
or
letter.
write a letter. I don't know. I don't know what. Just tell the counselor. Let them work on that one. I
Here,
don't know. I don't know what to tell you on that one.
okay, here's my thing. If you find yourself as like if like in our situation, we have a unique role and he can't tell me everything, which I appreciate.
That's right.
Because again, I'll meet you in the street. I play no games about him. So, but if you're in that kind of position or you kind of have that kind of relationship with your spouse of, you keep things in, you really don't want to kind of burden her or you don't really want to burden him, I think you owe your spouse um, the consideration to talk to a therapist or to be taught because it will comfort me knowing, like it comforts me now
Sure.
that I know you talk to a therapist or you're talking to someone or you have a mentor. What concerns us as a spouse is if not only are you not talking to me, but you're not talking to
Ooh.
a therapist, you don't have some type of accountability, you don't have somebody that I know that you're talking to. And so that's when, as wives or a spouse, can be very concerning. Like, well, if he's not talking to me, he could be acting out. And I feel like that can open the door to some very destructive things.
No, I mean I think you're exactly right. I think men, and not every man, but sometimes in a relationship, sometimes it can be the woman, doesn't make a difference. But when there's somebody that is a little bit more closed off, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can create this tension because you're like, man, you got to tell me something, give me something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't get that, then it does feel like, well, it's just a lot of things can happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you're exactly right that if they're not talking to somebody, talking to their spouse, right, your hope is that somebody's helping them to process through what
Right.
they're going through, right? They're getting some type of wisdom
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
from someone so that he or she, right, can make the decisions that are wise and not let that be self-destructive for that relationship. So no,
Right.
I agree with you totally that even if a person may be closed off, like number one, it's not good for the marriage long term, right? We
Mm-hmm.
can't we gotta have communication. We gotta talk.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not comfortable, you got to learn, work with it, right? Get some classes, get some counseling, find a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to make time for it, whether it's a date night, whether it's time for you to go to bed, whether it's Sunday nights. You
Mm-hmm.
got to work to make it because without it, it just, the relationship just struggles over time, right? And we got to help each other better communicate. Like if you need that from me, then say, hey, you know what? I need this. Or if you need
Hmm.
space when you get home for a little while first, then say, I need that,
Yeah, that's important.
so that ultimately we are helping to serve each other. And it's not just about ourselves. Because if we make it just about ourselves, that don't work. Like I ain't never talk, so I don't want to talk. Right?
Hmm.
That that can kill a marriage because you are not given the life that your husband or your wife needs. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think also being clear about each other's jobs, because your job kind of goes through different seasons. There was a season when you were in school and
sure.
full-time ministry, and it just was like, oh my gosh. And I knew like my access to you, and I just knew kind of the pressures you were under. I knew I couldn't, I knew it was just going to be very quiet. Like,
Sure.
but then I also, like, in this season, I've learned to, when you come home, and sometimes I do this and sometimes I don't do this. Like, I know I didn't do it today. You came home and you gave me
Oof.
like a kiss on my head, and I was like, hey, duh, 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 duh," and he
All
was
this.
like,
I was
hey,
like, hey
man.
man.
He's like, I just came in. I just walked in the door. You can't just hit me with all that. And I think sometimes as a spouse, we have to check ourselves with that.
That's cool, man. Well, y'all, thank you for watching Made to Last, conversations about marriage and family and parenting. If it's been helpful, hey, share some in the comments, share with your friends, like it. Thanks again for watching Made to Last.